Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fearless Female Entrepreneurs, where you will receive expert advice and inspiration from 20 fierce feminine leaders and entrepreneurial experts who want to help you supercharge your power as a feminine thought leader and ignite your own powerful rising. And today I am just thrilled to be here with Clare Dubois, founder of Tree Sisters. Welcome, Clare.
Hello, my love.
So good to be with you as always. And let me just welcome everybody who's joining us live here on the call. So welcome, and please go ahead and post your name and location in the chat. We love to see where everybody is calling in from and to really feel the global energy of this gathering. So don't be shy. Go ahead and post your name and location. All right, wonderful. Welcome, everybody. So Clare, let me just introduce you here a bit. Clare Dubois is the founder of TreeSisters.org, a global women's movement supporting humanity's evolution into a restorer species. She is an earth-loving social entrepreneur and inspirational speaker known for her direct catalytic energy, her whole systems approach to behavior change, and her unending loyalty and love for the natural world. In her own life, her aim is to reclaim balance, astonish herself, and be a walking permission for those who are fed up of being held back and just want to have a go. So, Clare, I love your topic today, which is undeniable, outrageous, and raw, the power and potency of answering your soul. So, to begin, could you share with us why you chose that really powerful topic? What is that? What is the deeper meaning there for you?
I think I'm in a place of what else is there? And, my world is pushed right up against the world of climate change and the world of mass extinction and the world of, do we have a future? And when that's your world on a daily basis, there is a reality to, if you let yourself feel that, and if you let yourself be in a relationship to that, something really undeniable is tapped. Something really raw is tapped. Like there is an answer that needs to match the pitch of experience that we're in. And, one of the ways that I stay sane in amongst the scientific reality of what we're being told is to see it like a gauntlet thrown down from life to have one of the biggest evolutionary or consciousness shifts that humanity has ever had to have. We've been sat inside an extractive carbon economy. We're not going to survive if we stay in an extractive carbon economy, which means the consciousness with which we have existed for all these years that has had that model of we can just take from our planet without giving back, it's done. It's over. It's dysfunctional. It's lopsided. And it has been based on the suppression of the feminine. It's been based on the suppression of nature, the suppression of emotion, the suppression of relationship, the suppression of heart connectedness, the suppression of intuition and instinct, and nature connectedness. And so, okay, we've done that now. That experiment has brought us what it's brought us, many amazing things, but it's also brought us a planet on the edge of collapse. And when you're dealing with a planet on the edge of collapse, then you're looking at a full-scale swing away from ways of being and thought processes, perspective, worldviews that say we can keep taking. And also that our leadership is going to be polite or contained or a continued expression of what it's been. So women have been as suppressed as nature has been. And so, yes, we have in the Western world been able to step forward in an extraordinary way. But how many of us have known how to step forward from that undeniable, raw, feminine place of deeply embodied, connected leadership? Or how many of us have stepped forward to man the men, to match them at their pitch and play their game. Because, and you know, I've heard of, one of my friends went to a women's executive conference, and she said 3 of the speakers on stage were talking about the particular drugs that they use to manage their anxiety and depression. And I was just like, are you telling me there are people on stage actually advising other women executives how to manage the trauma that they're going through because they're suppressing their cyclical nature, because they're hammering over their bodies, because they're in competition, and they're not allowing the wildness, the juiciness, the depth of what feminine energy really is to move through us? So I'm at that place simply where I feel, you know, and that was part of how Tree Sisters came to be in the first place, you know, this invitation from life. Women have to remember who and what they are. Feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. Women have to remember who and what they are. That's one little sentence that contains a world full of trauma and a world full of possibility. But what's a woman? You know, what is a woman? She's a staggering force of nature. She is a highly sensitive, attuned being. She is capable of birthing and creating life. She is a womb of creation. Inside her, mysteries are possible that the best of science still can't explain. You know, we are not just homemakers and pleasers, and we're not here to be appropriate. We're not here to be appropriate. We're not here to keep the peace. That's not what a woman is. She's here to bring a sword of truth that is rooted in love, to cut through the bullshit. You know, she's Kali as well as Durga. We're everything, and we're all 4 seasons in one day. You know, we're the weather. We're not supposed to be these tidy, accepting, docile creatures. You know, we're tornadoes and hurricanes. We're sumptuous meadows, we're forests, we're rivers and oceans of feeling and awareness. And so that's why I chose that title. I chose it because to me it speaks to the truth of a woman and everything that I am here to discover inside of myself, but also to help elicit in others on behalf of life.
Yeah, thank you. I had chills as you were sharing about that. What is a woman? What a woman really is. And I think all of the women listening and watching, you know, are feeling that call from their soul. And so this topic of the power of answering your soul is so important, because you know, why are our souls crying out to us at this time to change our lives, to shake things up, to do things completely differently than we've done before, to start movements and communities and businesses? You know, it's because of what you're saying here. It's because we've been contained for too long, and the harm to the earth has gone on for too long, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing this. So how do we do that? How do we answer that call from our soul?
It's a complex question, because it's going to be different for everyone. And what I express as being true for me may absolutely not be true for another person. Monique's soul is so calling her. I'd love to know what that sounds like to Monique. So I'll give a few perhapses, like a few perhapses that might touch you. Longing is one, and longing and absence go hand in hand. So when you let yourself listen to your longing, so I mean the sort of umbrella here is listening. It's listening to yourself. It's being prepared to hear the voice of your own soul. The voice of your own soul may speak to you in very different languages. It may speak to you through cancer. It may say, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna just do the absolute loudest possible thing to stop this person in their tracks. You know, it may do that. It may do it through arranging circumstances where you're sacked. It may do it through arranging circumstances where your partner suddenly starts behaving absolutely appallingly or has an affair. It may do it, you know, it may do it through some really overt circumstances, or it may do it through longings. It may do it through that feeling of kind of like a nagging emptiness that it just won't leave you alone, you know, and that could be expressed through depression. It could be expressed through the fact that you just can't find your joy anymore. Or it may be right at the other end of the extreme, which is you can't stop thinking about things and they make you so excited. Like there are just these things that when you think about it, it lights you up completely. And you kind of live into the possibility of what those things are. For me, it was absence. There was an absence and there was a longing. So there was just this feeling of, oh, I want to do something, something, like there's something, and I don't know what that something is, but it's something, and it was just like, oh, where is it? And how it manifested was the longing to feel given. Like I wanted to feel like it looks like when a dog or a horse is running at full speed and looking like completely majestic. Like I want to know in my life what it feels like to be running at full tilt in exactly the right direction for my own soul, so that all my capacities are utilized and given. You know, I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel on path. I want to feel like my life makes sense. I want to feel like nothing's missing. I don't want to feel this kind of empty, I can do this thing, therefore I'm going to keep doing this thing, but it's not actually the thing that I'm here for. It's kind of like I'm good at it, therefore I can do it. And my life is oriented around making money versus being the me, you know, being the me that makes sense to myself. So it's, you know, it's how honest you're prepared to be with yourself. You know, are you willing to really feel whether you're satisfied? Are you willing to really feel whether or not you know you're sitting on your gifts? Are you willing to own up to the fact that it's safer to sit on your gifts than it is to have a go? Are you willing to be honest with yourself around why you compromise on yourself? You know, all of these things, like none of them are comfortable. None of them are comfortable. And I remember the first time I got up to public speak, I was terrified. And I said, you know, be careful what you wish for, because life is like waiting for us to dare to step forward. And when we do, it'll throw so much wind under our wings, because life isn't half-hearted, like a tree in full bloom. It's just like, bah, it's all there, like nothing held back. And we're nature, so we're the nature of humanity, wanting to be all given and all there. But we're kind of like, well, you know, I'm gonna not do this and I'm not gonna do that. And actually, the reality is, our souls are never going to be satisfied with mediocre and kind of maybe a little bit. You know, our souls are here for the full experience of fullness. And so, yeah, how do we do that? You dare to be honest with yourself, and then you dare to listen for what that's telling you. Listen, because there's only one person that can know what's true for us, and it's us. There's only one person that can know what's true for us. Everybody around us could go, oh, you should be doing this, or you should be doing that, or you should be doing the other. Or it should look like this, or it shouldn't look like that. But the reality is, what's encoded in your soul may look nothing like anything that anybody that loves you would ever dream of. And the only person that can be honest about that is you.
This is something that it's very fascinating, because this has come up in different ways in almost every interview so far, to that the key and most critical thing in all of this is to do what's right for you, to follow your own heart, not to follow the rules that anybody else sets, not to try to copy the path of somebody else, not to, fall into what other people want or expect.
And it's so hard. It's so hard because we've been conditioned to keep the peace. We've been conditioned to self-sacrifice. I'm talking about women here, where we've been conditioned to do what's right for everybody else. And it's like part of being a woman, as we have been conditioned, is self-betrayal, self-sacrifice. Do not, override your body. Do not listen. And the kind of courage that it takes to turn inside, like to walk home to your own soul and like wrap yourself in her arms and say, show me, show me who I am, show me what I'm made of, show me, rather than, is this version of myself acceptable? Is this version of myself appropriate? If I'm like this, do you love me? How many times have all of us heard those words in our psyches? Do you love me? The external, I call her my beggar. My beggar, who will sit there endlessly and go, do you love me? Am I enough? Is this okay? And it's just like, oh my God, I just can't bear that any longer, and I can't bear that for anyone, actually, because it's like, rather than landing in our incarnations and owning them with our authority and our wisdom, we're kind of showing up and going, hi, is this okay? Am I okay? Tell me if I'm okay. And it's like this insult to life. It's this insult to soul. And it's this insult to the sacred feminine. Like, the goddess is here. The goddess is there. We're all wearing her face. And so are we wearing her face and apologizing for being female, which is deeply conditioned into us, because the reality is we live in a patriarchal world that has gone, oh, it's a girl, for God knows how long. Being female was, and it's still in many cultures where femicide is going on, in many cultures where to be a woman means that you're owned. For whatever reason, the patriarchal experiment on this planet has basically said to be a woman is less than. To be a woman is not less than. To be a woman cannot be less than, just like being a hummingbird is not less than an elephant. A hummingbird is its own exquisite manifestation of the sacred. A woman is her own exquisite manifestation of the sacred. A man is his own exquisite manifestation of the sacred. There is no creation made by creation that is less than, although humanity has decided that we're going to create a hierarchy. We're going to put ourselves at the top of that hierarchy as the primary species on this planet capable of trashing everything for everyone. And then we're going to put white men at the top of that hierarchy. We're living a lie. If we were living a truth, we'd be living on a flourishing planet. We are living a fundamental lie. Now, we can know that logically. We can know logically that being a woman is not less than. But in our blood, in our DNA, in our ancestry, and in our conditioning, in the collective conditioning of the female psyche, it's you're less than. So all these moments where I'm saying, come home to yourself, honor yourself, love yourself. It's like we've got to push through the walls of disconnection, fracturing, separation, and trauma in ourselves, where we have been taught that is a pathway to death, humiliation, judgment, aloneness, whatever. The witch burnings are huge. I always go on about those, so I'm not going to go on about those today. But it's a very real thing that for most women to come home to ourselves, we have to move through extreme fear of all of the levels of rejection that culture has told us that we will experience if we honor ourselves. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. I'm not going to say this is simple.
Yes. Yes, yes. And I think I know without a doubt in my heart, we are gaining the courage now to do this. And as you said at the beginning, we have no choice but to do this, right? This is the way we're going to stay alive on this planet, is we have to change drastically the way, and it starts with each of us as an individual, right? Shifting these beliefs, really looking hard at the dark places and the trauma, and seeking whatever way of healing is right for us. And then it ripples out into the collective. And I think we are, coming together and standing up for ourselves like never before.
I think life is rising. Life is rising through us. You can think of us as separate beings, or you can think of us as life itself rising to her own call.
Yeah.
The feminine is rising. I do not understand why or how the patriarchal experiment has been allowed to play out as it has for as long as it has. And that still we're looking at absolute madness, the caricature of power over dynamics inside of the patriarchy. I mean, what's going on in America? It blows my brain. What's going on in Brazil? What's going on all over the world? Russia, that we seem to fixate on the demented father as the appropriate person to run our countries. Well, how demented does it have to be before the feminine says enough? Well, we seem to be pushing the envelope as hard as we can. And what it is doing, it's calling up the women, it's calling up the children. Children are demonstrating all over the world now. Like, life is starting to say, too much, enough, no more. And so, one of the reasons I think we're suffering from so much disease and depression at the moment, I mean, yes, there's the fact that we're poisoning ourselves. That'll do it. But I think more, it's because our life force is desperately trying to rise. Like, it's trying to throw off the shackles. And if we're still going, then we've got this happening. Life is wanting us to go, oh God, enough. Okay, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to do because this is what I want to do. Like that wild, undeniable, fierce, feminine flow that cannot stand being dampened and suppressed for a moment longer. Not for a moment longer. And yes, I will say, there is a distinct risk if you're going to blow your top and actually, like a good old volcano, discover what you're made of. You're going to make a mess, because volcanoes do. So do tornadoes, so do hurricanes. But once you've kind of like thrown the whole, thrown your life up in the air in a big way to discover who you are, you're coming closer and closer to the tuning fork of your own soul. And as you say yes to yourself, as you say yes to who and what you really are, you will start to vibrationally attract to you all the other people that are saying yes to who they are as well. And you'll start to feel less mad and less alone, and more supported. And that's one of the reasons for Tree Sisters. Tree Sisters is a huge support system, a network of women who are in that experiment of figuring out how to bring our energy forward. One of the absolute fundamentals for all of us is that we don't try and do it alone. Can't do this alone, because the conditioning will come straight back over and just go, oh, you're not enough. It blinds us. But the women around us will say, hell yes, just ignore those voices. Come on, let's do this thing. Because together we have each other's backs. We can see each other more clearly than we can see ourselves. I have very little spare time in my life now. I work so hard, which means I have to be very, very specific about the people that I can handle being with in the time off that I have. I need those people to nail me. Like, I need to know that a woman will walk up to me and just say, who the hell are you being right now? For me to be able to go, oh, thank you. Yeah. What am I doing? Like, I don't want somebody to come and say, oh, you're so amazing, or oh, I'm just like slap, no, like, who are you, and where are you, and am I in here, and like, come on, like, let's hold each other up, let's call each other up, let's be a stand for each other, let's get real. And that does start with that deep acceptance and reverence for self, where you just say, okay, this is my incarnation, I'm grabbing it with both hands. I'm grabbing it with both hands, because nobody else can do that for me. And then I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may, and I'm gonna start to attract in other energies that are at that vibration. Sort of, it's a very unequivocal place. I find it pretty satisfying, in all honesty. It used to terrify me. These days, I find it pretty satisfying. It's pretty much the only place that I can inhabit.
Yeah. So you mentioned, being in community, finding other women so we can strengthen each other, give each other a shove when needed, and support each other. What else do you recommend about, like, how can we let out what's really inside of us? Should we, I feel like screaming and dancing are two good ways.
Oh yeah. There's not enough screaming and dancing. Crying. Oh, crying is my special gift. That's why I've got these lovely bags under my eyes. I dance a lot, and the purpose of dancing for me is to move my energy. It's like, if you think that your life force is constantly trying to move through you, but how many of us spend our days like this? I mean, I spend hours and hours on the laptop now. It's just awful. So I have to get up and I have to move. And moving, I can kind of move, or I can move. And this second type is, I go still and then I listen for the movement that is moving me. So I can move my body, or I can let my body move me. The second version of that is an unfurling that is life force based and intimate. When you let your body move you, you're no longer controlling anything, you're allowing something. And when you're allowing yourself to move you, it's like you're saying yes to yourself. You're letting your soul and your body do this. When you sit there and you go, okay, I'm going to dance, then your mind is largely still moving your body.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling depressed, which I frequently do because I look at climate science, I will put some music on of some description and I will let my body move. Usually what then happens is I'll cry, because as soon as I come back in touch with how I feel, like if I let my body move me, it will bring me into my feelings. If I let myself feel my feelings, I don't have to understand why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. It's like keep your mind out of the picture. If I want to have a sobbing fit for 5 minutes every morning, it's going to be a good day, because essentially I have cleaned my pipes. My body cries to let go of crap. I don't need to know what the crap is. It could be letting go of the stuff that prevents me from being able to have a good fundraising meeting. It could be letting go of something that I experienced yesterday that I hadn't digested properly. It could be letting go of 1,000 years worth of dominance that just happens to be the next layer that's up, that is now ready to be cried out. I don't need to know. If I can just give myself to my body and give myself to my emotions, the intelligence of my body will move whatever is ready to be moved. And then usually I won't stop dancing until I have an enormous grin plastered all over my face. And then at the point that I'm smiling again, then I start having creative ideas. Then those ideas are the things that I take into my day. I mean, I've got my to-do list, which is, 6 miles long. But the first things that I will do are the things that show up for me in dance, because my body is saying, and now this, and now that. So crying, yes. Dancing, yes. Screaming a lot, yes. Speaking your truth, especially when it terrifies you, Those are the big ones. How many of us have spent lifetimes saying yes when we mean no? How many of us have given our bodies when we don't want to? how many of us have not been able to literally go, oh, for God's sake, don't touch me like that, because we're so terrified of damaging a male ego? You know, how many of us do not bring our absolutely authentic truth in the moment because we may rock the boat? Well, there are ways of bringing your truth. There are ways of speaking lovingly and firmly, which hold your boundaries and honor your energy. And every time you do that, you're saying yes to yourself and you're getting stronger every time. So for me, if I'm asked to do something and it terrifies me, largely it'll be because it's pushing me out of my comfort zones and therefore it's bringing me closer to myself. You know, so listen for the things that you long for and that frighten you, and become awake to the moments where you know that you're compromising yourselves. Take a deep breath and do something different. And then if it really freaks you out, after you've done it, go outside and cry, and then celebrate yourself, you know, or then go and eat cake or whatever it is that you can do to sort of celebrate yourself. But understand, you know, above all, nobody can live your life for you. Nobody can ever love you the way that is going to be perfect, in the way that you can show up for yourself. You know, the more that we look externally for validation and appreciation, isn't it lovely when it comes? But your soul may want to do something like my soul has wanted to do, which is stick its finger in the feminine wound and the climate change issue, which are two of the places that the least people on the planet want to look at, and it wants to waggle it around. You know, you may find yourself wanting to do something that people say, please don't do that because we don't want to look at it. Yeah. Please don't do that because I don't want to look at myself. Please don't do that because if you show up, then I'm going to have to realize how much I'm not showing up. No, please don't rock the boat. It's just like, sorry, I can't not rock the boat anymore. So I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to criticize you and living yours the way you do, but let me get on and do my thing, because I have to make sense to myself. And that's the big question. Do you make sense to yourself? Because if you don't, there's a glorious trip in front of you. You know, there's a pathway that's waiting for you. And only you can walk it.
Yeah. And as you said, walk it even if it terrifies you, especially if it terrifies you.
Especially if it terrifies you. I mean, I'm running a global organization. I have no idea how to run a global organization. No one ever taught me how to do that. I'm still learning as I go. When I started Tree Sisters, I was asked to start a global organization, become a front person. I have to understand, charity law is too strong, but I have to understand how to run a charity, how to run a team, how to fundraise, how to work on social media, how to stand on stage and be a front person, how to deal with calamities, how to intercept with a board, how to grow a board. When this was landed on my lap, I was a psychic healer. I was a medical intuitive. I lived on my own, pretty much, away from everybody, total isolationist, had never worked for an organization, had never worked for a company, had always been self-employed pretty much, apart from my first 3 months, I think, when I actually worked for a lingerie designer in London, would you believe? I knew nothing. And so knowing nothing is not an excuse. If your soul says, there's this thing, this is my longing, and you go, but I haven't got a clue about that. You do. Somewhere in you, there is something perfectly configured to be the thing that learns how to do that, and therefore you bring that vibrational pathway into creation, or your soul wouldn't be asking you to do it. That's the thing. You have to trust that when a longing arises, it's connected to embodied wisdom, and there's something there for you to do. You know, all I knew was I got to do something with trees. Like, I just knew I was supposed to be doing something with trees and money. I didn't know what. I had no clue. And then when I had the car crash that gave me Tree Sisters, and the whole thing like lined up in front of me and told me what I'm supposed to be doing, I freaked. I said no for 9 months. I had the world's biggest depression. It was just like, it was saying, be a front person, run an organization, do all these things. And I'm like, no, I can't do any of it. And now I look back, I can't believe who it's grown me into, and I've got 1,000,000 miles to go still, but am I afraid? Not really. I used to be terrified of everything and everyone, terrified. In my 20s, I couldn't walk down an aisle in a train or a plane. I could not walk through closed doors in public. I mean, I was seriously, seriously traumatized as a youngster. And I never imagined I would do anything. Now I get up on stage and I work with 700 people at a time, taking them through group processes. Nobody ever taught me how to do that. That was inside me waiting to come out. No one ever taught me how to do any of the things that I'm doing. I just had to discover, and I had to discover largely by falling over, getting it wrong, getting back up, getting it wrong again, getting back up, just eating humble pie I've eaten so much humble pie, I should be about, enormous. But it's not arrogance to have a go. It's courageous to have a go. And if there's one thing that a woman is latently, she's courageous. My God, we are so brave. We're still here after everything that's been done to us. We're still here and we're rising, and we have got the capacity to do anything we want to do, anything. And life's on our side now. I mean, life may not be on the side of the planet, or at least it's getting very frightening, but life is helping woman put herself on the global stage. So if we're going to grab our incarnations with both hands and step into them and claim them, now is the time.
Yeah, I agree with so wholeheartedly with everything you're saying here, and especially that part about not knowing how, not having the expertise is not a reason to not move forward. It's not.
There's no excuse. Yeah, there's no excuse anymore.
Yeah, that longing inside of you is the most important thing, and you will receive all the training that you need. I know that has been my experience. You will receive all the training that you need along the way, believe it or not.
On the field of play, you will discover what you are capable of. And there's another thing that not knowing, inside Tree Sisters, there's all these different energies that we work with, specifically reveal, embrace, embody, activate, shine, and belong. And reveal, we start with reveal because it's the willingness to bow before the immensity of the mystery that we are, that you are, that the world is. Because when you think somehow it creates a closed mind. Oh, it's this. I know how to do that. I'm going to do it like this. Well, immediately you're missing the input of creation. But if you say, I have no idea, then you sit there like a question mark. And a question mark is open. It's not closed. So then into that come intuitions and ideas and the willingness to reach out to others and say, well, how would I do this? Or what do you think? And you can start being available to creation, and that's one of the things I love about Tree Sisters, because we get to make it as we go. And one of our fundamental things is to operate through feminine principles. And one of the fundamental feminine principles is emergence, allowing, waiting to see what arises through the combination of our energies, waiting to see what's in the gap. If we leave a gap, you don't leave a gap, nothing can show up. If you leave a gap, if you sit in the question, if you make yourself available, then life can step in and go, oh, she's actually interested. Let's see how we create some interesting synchronicities to help show her that there's actually a path and support right beneath her feet.
Yeah, I love that. I want to share with you, Claire, something in the chat that Monique put earlier. She said, something happened today that made me want to stand on my desk and shout, I am so over the power over competition. And I told her in the chat, you should have done it, Monique. So I think this is such a beautiful, example of our soul calling out, here's something you can do, make your statement. So she said, maybe.
I know, it's like, you imagine somebody standing up in an office and just going, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. And it's like, oh, well, I can't do that because I'll be sacked, or I can't do that. Well, maybe you would be, but actually when we let an authentic expression, genuinely authentic expression of unrepressed or irrepressible feminine force move through us, everybody is touched. Truth is truth. Truth is truth. It's an NHS office. I've been invited to New York to very possibly speak to a large amount of business executives. And I was kind of imagining in my head last night how that would go. And I was remembering speaking at Emerging Women 2 years ago. I opened the conference, and there was a point where I was on stage and I started to cry because what I was talking about was so upsetting. I only had 3 minutes to talk, and in that 3 minutes I managed to upset myself so much. But also what was happening was when there's emotion in a room and everybody holds their breath and nobody's willing to actually feel the thing that is asking to be felt. So I was like bringing this thing, like, this needs to be felt. Can we all get real about this? And everyone's just like, oh God, let this presentation be over, you know? I suddenly realized, like, the reason I'm crying is because nobody else in the bloody room is. Like, nobody is feeling this, and therefore I'm feeling it on behalf of everybody. So I stood there and I was just like, oh my God, can we all just roar? And I was like, 1, 2, 3. And the whole room like got to their feet in one go and just went, rah! And it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, that was so great. Let's do it again. Rah! And like all these men just like, rah! You know, and then I could stop crying because suddenly everybody was like, okay, I'm there. And I was imagining, like, what would it be like in New York to get an entire room of business executives roaring?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that might just be the exact right thing to do, to break through, to not show up as this, wow, I'm sitting here and there's this hummingbird, right? Like, as I was saying that, just came right to the window and was staring at me. So I think I got my blessing from the universe. How do you break out of the mold? How do you help people realize this is shit or bust? You know, this isn't time for polite. This is time for real. Like, if you're not roaring, if you're not up in your arms, if you're not beating your chest, you're not understanding what's at stake, really. Like, we have never been in this situation. I have no idea whether we're even going to be here in 10 years. That's the reality. You know, Indigenous communities all around the world can't see beyond 2025. It's right around the corner. It's happening now. And what we don't know is what we're capable of, because we've been so conditioned to have our brakes on. Okay, so what is a woman who doesn't have her brakes on? What is a woman who is available to nature's energy? What is she? What is going to come through her? What is the leadership that's going to come through her? When we turn to ourselves and we turn to nature and we let it have us. You know, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in this unbridled feminine leadership that's coming through from nature connection. We call it feminine nature-based leadership. To me, it's the only way. And that's what I heard in the car crash. Feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. Okay, well, we can't expect the men to reinstate feminine consciousness. They need it too, but it's gonna have to be the women. We've got to hold that energy and birth that essence, that resonance, that frequency, that embodiment of the sacred feminine in us, so that life cannot dare continue to desecrate, denigrate, stamp on, destroy, dominate. Like, it can only be in a world where we say yes to that. What if we cannot bear to say yes to that for one moment longer? Then what?
Yeah. This is so powerful, what you've been sharing here, Claire. Thank you so much. And I think you're a great model for all of us in expressing what's in your soul, you know, and
that bit. Yes. If you wanted to have a great model of work-life balance, I'm probably the worst one you'll ever meet. Genuinely, but we'll work on that.
Yeah, no, thank you for being you, and for yeah, all that you're doing to change the world, and for all that you've shared here. So powerful.
I'd love to I'd love the opportunity to answer some questions or speak to any of the people that are here, or see how I can be more useful to those that have given us their time.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. So if anybody would like to ask Claire a question, you can either raise your hand. There's a hand icon. You can just tap on that or click on that, and we'll bring you over to chat with her. Or if you prefer to, you can put your question in the chat or in the Q&A box, and I will read your question from there. So Lisa is raising her hand. Lisa, let me bring you over. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Do we get to see your beautiful face, or are you going to
Hi,
be a
how are
black
you,
square?
Jocelyn?
Good. We can't see you. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh, well, you know what? Let me see if, okay, so I'm out in the garden.
Oh, okay.
It says start video, and I'm touching it, but it's not it's not letting me just share my face, I guess. But anyway.
Well, maybe we don't have
I'm
enough
here.
bandwidth.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just hear you on audio then. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa. Welcome.
Okay, great. So I was definitely feeling everything that you guys were talking about, especially in relation to the divine feminine. My work is very much centered around that as well. And I have a quick question because it's not going to be it's a hot topic item, and I just have to follow what you guys are encouraging us all to do and speak our truth, even if it's might come across however it comes across. I'm going to address the elephant in the room, okay? And just ask for something as far as your perspective and how we heal this. I know deep within myself that the divine feminine, in order to heal, has to allow birthing at various levels. And I'm wondering if anyone else feels the pain and the tragedy within ourselves with the abortion issues as they are playing out today. Now, I want to just put this out here as an issue, not of judgment or condemnation or any of that, but how do we, as life-giving women and as the divine feminine reborn, on the one hand, speak for ourselves and for women as a whole, and yet have that possibility and that advocation of stopping life flowing within us. And I have to just address the elephant in the room and the wisdom of all that have gone before us and those currently, trying to make positive change. How do we heal if we don't address that particular issue, which continues to fester and I believe work against all of the healing that we are genuinely trying to do in a variety of different facets, both in healthcare, in planetary change, in political issues, all of it. So that's my question, and I hope you receive it in the way in which it was intended, as a something that needs to just be talked about. Thank you.
Do you want to play with that one, Jocelyn?
Lisa, I'm not sure I understand your question. Could you boil it down to like 5 words, 7 words, and we'll go from there?
Okay, sure. As women, how do we advocate for abortion and advocate for life-giving energy within ourselves and our planet?
So are you saying, I'm still slightly confused. Are you saying abortion is, in your perception, are you saying abortion is wrong or abortion is a choice?
I'm saying that I'm not making a judgment in any case. I'm just saying to have the discussion, because I think when we start laying down those absolutes, it's a problem. So
Absolutely.
yes. And so my intention with all of this is the dialogue piece. And I'm just tossing it out there from an energetic perspective. It probably doesn't need an answer. All I'm saying is, when I'm listening to you guys, when I was working in my garden, and everything that I was hearing was, sometimes whatever's going on, you have to get it out there and create some visibility. And it's coming from a very deep place. And I honestly believe that in working from a healthcare perspective and a lot of different avenues, that until we actually unroof the wound and actually look into it and feel it, that we're not going to be able to heal it. And it's not a judgment. It's none of that. It's just, how do we, I don't want our society to think that infanticide is a good thing. And I really don't think that we as women want that in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, this is one of those places where everybody's going to have their own views and their own interpretations. Infanticide for me is the death of children once they've been born.
Correct.
We're talking the death of children, the millions of baby girls that have been killed because they're girls in countries
Correct.
where you have to have a boy. That is one form of, there aren't even words for what that is.
Agree.
But what that is an expression of patriarchy. And what patriarchy is in its very nature is a dictatorship over what is appropriate for a woman's body. And the bottom line for me as a woman, it's the right to own your own body. It's a right to know what is true for you. For me, in the hundreds of thousands and millions of women that are raped every year, a law that says, no, by law, you have to keep that child. Or a woman who, I have a friend that had a baby aged 9 because her stepfather raped her. I didn't,
Yes.
there are circumstances in this world that need to have compassionate holding. And above all, to me, it is a woman's life, a woman's choice, a woman's mind, a woman's ability to understand that we're beyond physical. We operate in the soul realm. That
Agreed.
Our understanding
Totally.
even of what life is extremely limited and narrow. So I think it boils down to our willingness as women to step into our own power and our own leadership. And that has to start with understanding what's true for us. And what's true for each woman is going to be fundamentally different to what's true for every other woman. So trying to create laws that blanket when it comes to such an incredibly beautiful, difficult, and terrifying thing as choosing to allow life or not to move through your body, that has to be in the hands of the woman. I mean, I can't.
Well, I agree with 99% of what you're saying. And I think the thing that has just flipped my switch in our country, I notice your accent, so I don't know where that.
I'm a Brit. I'm a Brit, and
it.
abortion is legal in my country, and
it's legal here as well. My issue is where we're at right now in in New York, and post-delivery issues that are being raised, and that is the piece, because we're talking post-delivery. And like I said, I'm not wanting to tie up any time. I just wanted to open the space for a brief discussion about this. I totally respect everybody's choice. I think that we as women have multiple choices along our path prior to becoming pregnant, and we need to avail ourselves, I think, of a lot of those.
Pregnancy is a choice.
Correct. And speaking just from the U.S. data, the rape issue, as far as what's collected, it's not the majority of the abortions that we're talking about. So that's, you know, that's a smaller
We also
percentage.
have no idea. I mean, I have to say,
Exactly.
we should probably get
know.
off this topic, actually. I don't trust any of the data that comes out in this country, quite frankly.
Correct. Yes.
This country is terrifying to me.
I mean, both of our countries or just ours?
But I mean,
Yeah,
American politics, American. I emigrated here in time for our current president. I can't actually say our current president in time for Trump, and I also have to say, you know, my world is reforestation, and
yes.
My world is environmental restoration and consciousness shift around
Mm-hmm.
saving our planet. So I am not
Right.
even remotely plugged into what's going on with abortion issues.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be able to sound remotely intelligent with what's going on in New York either. So I can only comment at the level of what's true for me, which is feminine choice. Feminine choice is the only way to go.
And
Yeah,
the only reason I
Lisa.
brought it up was I just
Lisa.
for 2 seconds. It was just
Okay,
from an
Lisa,
energetic
we need
perspective.
to let somebody else ask a question.
Thank
now.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And I understand, I hear you, Lisa, that there's a contradiction there. So thank you for bringing that up.
It's complex.
Thank you for speaking your truth. Yeah. Okay, so Linda, we have 2 more hands raised here. So Linda, let me bring you over. Hi, Linda. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm multitasking big time, but I have to weigh in on what you guys are talking about with the abortion because I am so impressed that someone is finally bringing up an issue that is disturbingly silent in this whole evolutionary movement that's occurring. It's bothered me for many years, and I had an abortion when I was 15. But the point that I think Lisa is trying to make and that I felt wasn't really being heard, and it's very difficult to talk about because it's extremely emotional, is that in order for women to step into their feminine power and their the need that this whole enterprise on earth requires, we have to face and deal with this issue. We have to talk about it's more than just it's a woman's choice, because if life is sacred, if the earth's life is sacred, then that means all life is sacred. And if we don't shift our perspective as women about our sexuality and about our responsibility and begin to talk about the importance of this contradiction, then that just gives men more power to manipulate the outcome. I don't know if that's clear, but because I feel very emotional right now.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I hear you. I hear you. I think it's such a complicated topic, for sure.
Yes. Yes. And it's one that, because it's so complicated, no one talks about it. And if we're going to talk about fierce feminine power, and we are the ones that bring life onto the planet, then we have to talk about that. And we have to begin educating about it. Overpopulation is killing the planet as much as patriarchy. So I just think it's great that this elephant is now on the table, and I hope that something productive comes from that.
Okay.
Linda. I don't know where to go with it, in all honesty, because it's a world. It's a world that my beingness is not in, and that may sound really ridiculous given that I'm a woman, but I am 100% working on environmental issues, and so we all have our areas, and it's not an area that has been part of my life beyond sitting in the reality, which is my truth. It's my truth. It doesn't have to be anybody else's truth. That we all get to make our own choices. And I can't say any more than that, really, because my world isn't one of sex education. My world is one of trying to help women honor their own bodies, know their truth, feel for what is right and not right for them. But my world hasn't gone into that side. So I'm not sitting here, and I don't think it's the best use of me, in all honesty, to enter deeply into that discussion, not because I'm dismissing it or because it's unimportant, because it's simply not where it's not where I can bring any really educated or deeply considered wisdom, because it's not where my own evolution is sitting. So I'm simply going to sit here and honor the reality of that it's a big issue for people, and everything that is a big issue for people needs to be talked about. It does. Anywhere where there is shaming, where there is closedness, needs to be talked about. What matters to me more than anything is how it's talked about, is that all voices are allowed, and that nobody is shamed for their view, but also that nobody is shoving their view down anybody else's throat as if that is the only right one, and that we understand that everybody's relationship to every topic is going to be fundamentally different and colored by their life experience, the traumas that they've gone through, their religious conditioning. There is no right or wrong. It's like there is no black or white. There is just a million shades of gray. And we're all sitting in our position in some of those millions of shades of gray. And what is right for one person could be absolutely abhorrent to another, but it doesn't make it right or wrong. And as soon as, in my life, when we get into the territory of right or wrong, I need to leave the conversation. I literally can't handle it. Because as soon as we get into black and white judgments about anything, there is an energetic frequency that starts to kick up that is divisive, and that ultimately means that somebody is going to be put down. And I can't be party to it. I can't be. So I'd actually appreciate coming back to a topic where I can actually be of some use. Because my time is extremely precious. I have very little of it, and I'd love to be able to contribute in some way that actually feels genuinely useful to anybody that wants to ask me something that I feel I can be useful about. Otherwise, and I pray that doesn't feel like a negation. It's not at all. It's simply a desire for me to be of use where I am. And if that topic is a topic that really, really needs to be brought forward, then I think it needs to be brought forward very consciously with speakers whose lives are in this area, so that they can be a bit more useful than I'm being right now.
Well,
Right.
I
Thank
think
you,
that
Lisa, we're going to let somebody else ask a question, okay? Thank you so much for speaking up. Have a beautiful day. Okay, or Linda, sorry. Okay, Ibtisam, let me bring you over here.
Tell us about the trees that Tree Sisters Planting, Monique is saying.
Yeah, and Erhard had a great question related to that. Let me read. Hi, Ibtisam, welcome. Let me read Erhard's question too. So Erhard said, how can you be sure that the trees you are planting will be allowed to become old forests? Okay,
well, that's a great question. Should we hold that now that we've got Ibtisam? It's so nice to see you. You're always here when I'm on Ibtisam. It's so nice to see your face. And last time I saw you'd shaved all your hair off, which is very radical.
Yes, and actually I don't know whether this is going to, because you said your area of expertise is about tree plantation, but what I'd really like you to know, Claire, I remember this is 18 months ago in June of 2017 now. You are the one who had you remember we had done that sort of star thing, and it was going through that exercise where something had totally lit up. I mean, there's something. So, I think you're sort of shortchanging yourself by saying, oh, this is my area of expertise, because it was through that fire was lit, and that led me to do really radical stuff after that. And for me, somehow, I feel, we use the word Mother Earth all the time. And for me, I know we have sort of raised a question about abortion, but for me, it's all coming together with Earth being representative of women and sexuality and choices, and it's all interlinked. It's all interconnected, and you can't really divorce one from the other. And it's again, I think I mentioned somewhere that we're going on about the women front, but I know in my own life, even as a professional relationship counselor for years, I have known far more feminine, beautiful, gentle men than women who have been more aggressive and more masculine than and this has been, when you talk about nonviolent communication. So my question actually is, and it's interesting that you said, oh, use me, because I don't want to go there, but I'm just saying that, Claire, it doesn't work that way, because it's all interconnected, and you have this amazing power. Like, when you were, how we say, I show up because you Simone, a lot of the speakers do, but there are some speakers where I just know if I miss their session, I'm going to cut a very intrinsic energetic cord, which Jocelyn so beautifully gets through these summits. So thank you once again. And I don't know, I'm still trying to be of service in some very radical way, as you had invited me 18 months ago to the Tree Sisters. I'm still waiting. I don't know how, Claire, but from the depths of my heart, if I could just do something there, I will do it.
Well, I so look forward to seeing you. This is the place that I get to see you. I was saying to Jocelyn, I have to do less summits because I'm working too hard, but I'll always say yes to Jocelyn. And one of the reasons is because you always show up. And I'm not meaning to shortchange myself. I'm not denigrating myself, saying, my speciality is trees. Actually, my speciality isn't trees. My speciality is having a go. I'm not actually what I would call an expert in anything apart from having a go. I'm not an expert in trees. I'm not an expert in feminine studies. I'm not an expert anywhere. I am a work in progress that is learning as I go. I'm an expert in figuring out how to be Clare. Like, that's what I can say about myself. And I'm an expert in, I really am an expert in having a go. Like, I can tell you a million different ways to have a go and a million different ways to pick yourself up off the floor when you fall down, because that's largely what I've done. I'm growing knowledge. My world has been around personal healing. My world has been around how you recover from massive trauma, because that was my life. And therefore, how does that then extend to the trauma that the earth is going through? How does that extend to the trauma that women are going through? And how does that extend to the trauma that men are going through? Because I'm not going to sit here and say that men aren't equally traumatized. It's just, I'm not a man. not this time round anyway. And so the gifts that I can bring to women, more than I can bring to men, like I can bring a lot to men, especially with that star that we did that last time, that is for men and women, because it is the balance of the masculine and the feminine that is in all of us. And I've recovered and stepped into leadership as a woman in a very, very misogynistic patriarchal family. So in terms of what it actually takes at the nuts and bolts level to move beyond really encoded, ground down fear in your body, that I can talk about much more from a woman's perspective than I can a man, because I haven't experienced it as a man. So, when we're talking about Mother Earth, when we're talking about, the womb of the planet, in the car crash that I had, I very much heard, you have to mobilize the women. The women are the missing piece. Women are the womb carriers and Earth is womb. What's been done to nature has been done to women. Women and nature share a common history. We've been in this state where we have been dominated and controlled, and nature has been dominated and controlled. And then we as women are also dominating and controlling nature and our own nature, because the whole cycle has been conditioned in that way. So, and yet we live in a world where we all have to eat. We live in a world where at every level of the natural systems, everything's preying on everything else. And so it's kind of idealistic to be in this realm where everything gets to survive and nothing dies. And and does that make it not sacred? No, it doesn't. But our human perception, and, years and years ago, I was in a therapy session and I spontaneously fell into unity consciousness. Like I was in the middle of a sentence and my consciousness totally expanded. And I went into this experience of, oh my God, I'm that tree. I'm the sky. I'm the earth. And everywhere I looked, I was it. And then I popped back out of it. And my therapist was staring at me like, where did you go? And the first thing I said was, there is no death. There is no death. Like I had a full tilt experience of there is no death. And then years later, when I was in India doing extreme spiritual sadhana, I had a much longer unity consciousness experience. And again, I had the same thing. There is no death. Like there is no death. And so I'm holding that as well inside of the sixth mass extinction that we're now currently going through. For me, it also sits inside my views on abortion. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel terribly safe to bring very deeply spiritual, experiential understanding that I carry in my body into an argument about abortion. Nor do I want to tell everybody that they have to be vegan. Nor do I want to come down with these black and white judgments that say, here's the line and you can't cross it. Because to me, everything is sacred. Life is essentially fully conscious. Life is inside of every experience, having every experience, evolving through every experience. At my soul level, when I am in touch with my soul more than my ego, my soul doesn't differentiate good or bad. It just has an experience through which it can learn. And for me, that changes everything. And that lifts me out of the place of good and bad. It lifts me into a place of life is experiencing everything, and evolution is happening as we speak through all the choices that we're making. Now, yes, I can look at life and I can say there are some choices that just terrify me. And they do absolutely terrify me. War terrifies me. And genetic modification terrifies me. Weather modification terrifies me. There's so much that really frightens me. I'm a terribly sensitive person. It doesn't actually help me to put my attention and my energy over here because I get paralyzed. I get completely paralyzed. What helps me is figuring out, where do I put my energy where I make sense, where I can make a difference, and where I can stay coherent. Because we're moving into a field of so much fear right now. Unless I arrange my energies in a way that I can stay aligned, I'm done. I'm flawed, and I can't manage my work. You know, I work 14-hour days plus every day because I'm carrying something immense. And that's my choice. Totally out of balance. It absolutely shouldn't be that way, but it is right now. So then my responsibility and all of our responsibilities are to figure out, where do we position ourselves? How do we hold our minds? How do we hold our hearts? How do we work with our bodies to be effective for our own health, for our families, and for the world that we want to create? And that is going to look different for every single person. It's going to look different for every single person. And it's all connected. Of course it is. Of course it is. How can it not be?
And I think that's the most wonderful thing that Jocelyn does, because she's bringing very diverse speakers, you know, the speakers before you and yesterday as well. As Jocelyn keeps on saying, the one that lights up your passion, the one which, you know, it's your gift, it's your, you know, that is what you're born with, and that's what needs to kind of come forth. And clearly you've identified, and you not only identified, like you're living it in such a massive, beautiful way. So
I just love this world, you know? I love this world. And I love this world with a passion that, I mean, if I think about it, I'll cry. It's like instant, you know? It's like I'm that far away from heartbreak in every moment because I love this world. You know, my hummingbirds, the trees. I can't bear human separation and disconnection in a way that means we miss the miracle. We miss the miracle. And it's not just the natural world that we're missing. It's the miracle of our own selves that we're missing. That I cannot live in the presence of that for my whole incarnation. I can't do it. So my life is 100% given to that. You know, and these tears are my love. And I let them come because I can't not. I don't have an off button. Like, I wasn't born with an off button. But I let them come because if I try to not feel what I feel, it makes me ill.
yes.
And I think it makes us all ill. And I think not feeling our passion as it is, you know, whether it's the abortion issues, whether it's gun control, whether it's how our children are taught, whether it's endangered species, whether it's trees, whether it's women, whatever it is, whatever we're encoded with, is the thing that we're here for. And we, you know, what we get to do is allow ourselves to be honest about that and then let it have us. You know, this is me letting it have me. You know, the manifestation of it is Tree Sisters. Inside of Tree Sisters, there is no creative limit. I'm working to try and help women step into their leadership. Am I saying that only has to be about trees? No, I'm not putting limits anywhere. I'm saying come in and experience the support. I'm begging people to want to fund trees because I want a planet that survives. Am I demanding that they do? No. You know, I'm saying please come in, receive the support, come in and experience the tools, come in and have these transmissions, and then see what it alchemizes in you. See what it brings forward in you. See what wants to birth in you. And I'll pray that that's for the good of the planet. But it may absolutely be that your leadership is really strongly educational or really strongly to do with health. You know, nothing to do with the environment. In which case, fantastic. And please will you give money for trees? You know, I'll just keep saying it. Do you want a planet or don't you? Are you pumping carbon into the atmosphere or aren't you? If you are, plant trees, please. Clean it up. Act like it matters. You know? And I'll keep waving my flag at everybody and say, I know that really you love this world too. You may not be as in touch with it as I am because I've let it break me into a million pieces. But I know you love her. Like, I know you do, so fucking do something. Something. And if all that is trees, okay. But then stop compromising yourself and get real about the magnificence that you are and stand up and dare to astonish yourself. Like, really, really, really.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much, because I think that's what it's not it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, what I'm trying to birth is magic of intimacy, and that's very similar to what you're saying. It's being real, and I often get very emotional. I think Jocelyn knows that whenever I'm talking, I have to kind of shut my voice so I can hear the quiver, especially during dream symposiums as well. So it's just so refreshing to know a person like you who's leading from the front can be emotional. That kind of makes me feel, go ahead. It's just permission giving in such a big way. So
I cry on stage. I cry on stage. I dribble. I cry all over Facebook Lives. Like, I cry when I'm fundraising. Like, it matters. Like, how can we not show that it matters? The thing is, it's like damming your river. Like, almost every sodding river on this planet is dammed. What are we doing to our world? And then what we do to our world, we're doing to ourselves. When you dam a river, you kill the ecosystem. It's no different to sticking a lid on your own tears. It's no different to sticking a lid on your own truth. You're withholding the truth that life is bringing through you from the world when you keep your mouth shut when something is wanting to be said. Why do that? Why? It's just snot, for God's sake. It doesn't matter. It's just moistness, and then you get to look blotchy and have huge bags under your eyes. But ultimately, you've let your river flow. Like, you've undammed yourself. And when you undam yourself, you let other rivers have permission to undam themselves. This world needs to be a world of undammed women, undammed children, undammed men, and undammed rivers. And the only way we can do that is by saying yes to our fullness, rather than, oh, sorry, that's a bit inappropriate, just stop right there because I might feel something. It's like, when I'm in the presence of that, it's just like, rah! I can't be. Either I'm allowed to roar on stage, or I won't come onto your stage. I'm not going to diminish myself anymore for anyone. I can't. I spent my entire childhood and most of my adult life in a cage because of my conditioning. Like, I'm out. I got myself out. Nobody's putting me back in. Nobody. And I will stand by any woman that is trying to get out of her cage. Any woman. And just say, yeah, come on, I'll hold your hand. I'll stay there. I'll stay the journey. I don't care how much screaming is involved. I'll stay the journey. That's what we are for each other. We're permission. I call it walking permission. We're carving paths. Every time one of us speaks our truth, we carve a path. Absolutely critical. We're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for all women. So I'm aware of the time, and I actually want to talk about the trees briefly. Ibtizan, I love you.
Thank you.
And I still want to bring you ever more inside of Tree Sisters. We're doing some films shortly. We should be in the films, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So the question before was, how can we say that our trees are going to live to full maturity? So this is an education piece, okay? One of the things you have to understand about Tree Sisters' approach, is that we are fundamentally, and actually this shows again how the whole thing is all interconnected. We're fundamentally trying to work with communities in a way that we're rebuilding relationship between communities and trees. Now, one of the ways that people look at reforestation is the only type of valuable reforestation are the ones where the trees stay in the ground. That's it. Like, we just have this very clear sense that if you plant a tree, the only thing that's worthy is for that tree to absolutely stay. In an ideal world, that would be the case. And in some of our projects, that is the case, or as much as we can understand, because then we're dealing with fire, we're dealing with insects, we're dealing with poachers, we're dealing with people who climb over fences and take what shouldn't be theirs. So there is no such thing as a 100% guaranteed tree that is going to be alive until its old age and falling over. There are the best of intentions, but our world is a very interesting world, and our world, when we talk about the tropics, when we're talking about, I hate the word, but anyway, so-called developing countries, you're talking about extreme poverty. You're talking about people who are dying of starvation, people who are incredibly marginalized. And so you also have to look at the fact that, for instance, in Madagascar, where we're planting mangroves, and we're also planting dry deciduous inland now. Now, those mangroves are protected. And in an ideal world, if we can continue funding, then those mangroves will stay protected by law and also by the government. There are people starving to death in Madagascar because the fish stocks are gone. You know, can we absolutely say 100% that every single mangrove that we plant is going to stay? No, we can't. We can say they're protected, and we can say that they're monitored, and we can say that they're reported on. And if any are taken, we know about it. And if any are taken, they are also replanted. But we're talking about extreme poverty. We're also talking about corruption. And we're also talking about community forests. So one of the things that we do that I love, actually, one of our approaches that's core to our reforestation strategy is planting around what we call intact forest landscapes. So, for instance, in one of the regions of Nepal that we're working in, there's like between 3 and 7% of what I would call the old growth jungle that is still there. Now, we're not going to stop communities needing wood in the same way that we are wood hungry in our countries. So the wood's got to come from somewhere. Now, in terms of our lifestyles and what we use wood for, gosh, I'm looking at the most enormous eagle. Wow. They use nothing in comparison to us, really. Incredibly simple lifestyles, incredibly simple homes. You know, we're not talking fitted kitchens in these places. We're talking tiny stoves on the floor, usually. However, they need wood for fencing in their animals. They need wood for their homes. They need wood for different things. And so if we grow a community forest around an intact forest landscape, what we're doing is we're creating a buffer zone. What that buffer zone does, it says, if you need to take wood, you take it from this forest that we're growing. You do not go into the intact forest landscape. So that form of reforestation, community forests, is avoided deforestation and endangered species protection, as well as reforestation. Now, are some of those trees going to be cut? Yes, they are. Are they going to be replanted? Yes, they are. And in each of our projects, some 2 trees are planted for every tree that's taken, and some 10 trees are planted for every tree that's taken. One way to look at that is to say fast-growing tropical trees, a young growth forest that is growing sequesters a hell of a lot more carbon than an old growth does. An old growth isn't needing to add carbon to its mass anymore, but a growing forest is building itself with the carbon out of the atmosphere. So one of the biggest approaches that we have is growing forest around existing intact forest landscapes. Some of those trees will be taken. They will be selectively harvested in the same way that it happens in all of our countries. It's never clear cut. So in others of our project, that's Nepal. Then we've got agroforestry in southern India. And we're looking right now at another project that's agroforestry in Haiti. When you're in areas where there is extreme desertification and soil, what's the word that means the quality of the soil has gone to pot? I can't remember. Anyway, when you've got extremely low water tables, so in southern India, 9 of their rivers have already dried up. We can't plant without drip irrigation. We can't plant a forest in southern India because there's not enough water anymore, and the monsoons have failed. So that's the one, soil depletion. Thank you so much. So then we need to plant in ways that get trees in the ground, because we've got to get trees in the ground, because trees are the guardians against extreme heat. They're the guardians against flood, because as soon as you have flood, which is happening in these areas, there's no rain, there's no rain, there's no rain, there's no rain. Then suddenly there's intense rain, like more rain than they can handle. The ground is like cement. And if there's no trees, what it'll do is it'll just pick up all the remaining topsoil and drag it off, and you've got infertile land. If you've got trees in your cropland, agroforestry wise, those tree roots become the conduits through which the water drains down into the water table. They also hold the soil. So agroforestry means that some of those trees are crops. Now, a lot of them will be for oil from seeds, fruit, nut, also fodder for cattle. They won't be cut, they'll just be harvested, like the fruit will be harvested. But then you've got the need for firewood. Well, firewood's got to come from somewhere. And because otherwise they're just going to go into the old growth forest and just keep cutting the trees down, and we have to stop that. But we also need to help them manage their relationship with the trees. So there are some species that if you cut them, they'll grow straight back up again. It's a form of pollarding. But you could say, well, those trees are being cut. And you could say, yes, but they're going to grow back again. And we've got to deal with the fact that there is a need for wood for these people. So in our projects, we have to marry the human need and the ecological need, the sun just came out, sorry, with the environmental impetus. So in all of our projects, we look to grow trees that are appropriate to the area and that serve the local communities in a way that means the local communities are going to want to protect them. You have to have buy-in at the local community level. Right now, Brazil, our forest corridors, in all honesty, I don't know what's going to happen here because the new president has come in and he basically sees trees as a crop, again, including the Amazon, as something that to be plundered, which is absolutely terrifying. The old Brazilian law used to be that if you're a farmer, 20% of your forest needs to go back under forest. 20% of your agricultural land needs to go back under forest. I'm imagining he's going to turn that over. So I don't know yet. I'm hoping that the farmers who understand the role that the forest plays in their land, and especially with endangered species, and more importantly with rainfall, because when you're talking tropical rainforest, you're talking rainfall, that they will want to continue this practice of building these forest corridors. But those forests are entirely protected. They're never going to be cut. Well, there I go. They're never going to be cut except for the fact that we've got a new president. So right now, the forests in Brazil shouldn't be cut. The forests in Madagascar shouldn't be cut, either the mangroves or the dry deciduous inland, which are protecting all these endangered species of lemurs. Cameroon shouldn't be cut. Kenya shouldn't be cut. Nepal is community forest, so some will be cut, but they'll be regrown. Southern India, it's agroforestry. Some of them will be cut. They'll be regrown. If we are going to plant in Mozambique, which we're looking at right now, it'll be mangroves. They won't be cut. If we're going to plant in Papua New Guinea, which we're looking at right now, it'll be mangroves. They won't be cut. So I am specifically, if we're planting in Haiti, some may be, but the majority won't be because there'd actually be fruit trees and we'd be supplying food to all the local universities with food for the children, essentially, in the schools. But we may take on more agroforestry projects. What we won't do is ever take on what I would call plantation projects or trees as crops to be harvested for like paper or any of those things. That's never going to be what we're doing. We're always doing, it gets people out of poverty. It rebuilds relationship between human and tree. The trees hopefully protect more of the existing old growth forest. The trees protect watershed and soil. We do emergency planting and endangered species, all of which the intention is for rapid forest growth wherever we're planting, and that those trees do stay in the ground. And to that, we do our absolute best. So hopefully that was thoroughly educational.
It was. Thank you.
I didn't cry.
I learned a lot that I did not know. Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you. So for those who are listening or those who are watching this as a recording and who want to contribute to Tree Sisters and contribute to what you're doing, we have your free gift here, which I'll share in a minute, which will get people into the community. And I'm sure that's one good way to start. But what do you recommend? What should people do?
I recommend that you become a Tree Sister. Like it or not, this is an organization that you will love. And it's an organization that exists to love you and exists to help you step into more of who you are born to be. And you can do that by simply going to treesisters.org/join and signing up for the newsletter. The newsletter will help you understand that all around the world on March 9th, women are singing for the trees, for example. That we've got a campaign coming up at the end of April, that we're going to turn 2020 into Year of the Tree. We've just had a massive call out for volunteers. If you go to the resource section on the website, then you'll be able to go into the blog and look for the invitation to volunteer. You'll see so many different really extraordinary roles that we're looking to fill with women who have the skills to fill them and actually want to step into some form of increased leadership or service around the environment. My bottom line for everybody is, if you happen to be using electricity or oil or wearing clothes that have traveled or eating food that has traveled, then essentially we need to be pulling our carbon out of the atmosphere. And actually, more than looking at this as a carbon equation, in a world that is being shredded, we need our trees more than just about anything else. Because our trees, as they grow themselves out of the excess carbon in the atmosphere, they stop that carbon dissolving into the oceans and killing our coral. Our coral is almost 90% dead or dying worldwide. That's the bottom of the food chain. That means the oceans are dying. To do that, we really, really need to reforest our world incredibly fast. And finally, scientists are actually starting to understand that. You know, the reason why we're planting in the tropics is because trees don't have a winter. They don't have a fallow phase. They grow all year round, meaning they sequester carbon 3 times as fast as temperate trees. And mangroves sequester another 30% more on top of that, whilst they're doing this extraordinary job of, you know, being the breeding ground for so many of the species in the oceans as well. So please donate. Please become a tree sister. Get yourself onto the mailing list and start to climb around inside of the nest. That's our community online. Start to climb around inside of all the offerings that we have. We have a new website coming out probably beginning of April. Our current website is about to say goodbye to the world. We've had huge difficulties with it. We're coming out with something completely different. I would just love you all to be involved in a way that we can reach you and let you know what's available so that you can find a way of stepping in and giving your gift. You know, another thing that we're doing is every full moon, there's a meditation. I run a meditation. We just did it yesterday. It's available on SoundCloud/Tree Sisters, soundcloud.com/Tree Sisters. I weave these full moons together to bring us collectively, energetically into mutual support. It doesn't matter how far away from each other we are. There is extraordinary power in our togetherness energetically. And when we connect energetically, we can become a gateway for different intelligences, for our own intelligence, for the miracle that we are. So every full moon, you can be doing that. Every new moon, we're now running calls about our groves, our local Tree Sister chapters, that you can start where you are or you can join where you are. Jenny will be running these so that any of you that want to get involved with creating your own Tree Sisters Grove where you are can have support all the way through. We're a very supportive organization in terms of our offerings, in terms of what you can get involved with, what we help you with. Meanwhile, we're out doing the best that we can to raise awareness of the trees and get as many trees in the ground as possible. You know, we're about 3.7 million trees in the ground now, and we're at about 2 million a year. Yeah. We're losing between 14 and 40 million a day. So we are scratching the surface. And for us, this year is the year of the gathering, because next year, if we turn it into the year of the tree, we're intending to seed trees, plant trees in the hearts and minds of the entire planet. And that requires a global network of women who are really, really ready. And that means all of you potentially being able to share what Tree Sisters is in your own communities, in your own countries, and figuring out with us how we get this out, you know, how we get the invitation that this is to normalize ecological restoration in our own lives through personal empowerment, like how we get that out. We need you, essentially.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, for sharing that. I do want to say it looks like the link, your normal join link is not working right now on the site. So if anybody
isn't that so typical
join and is having trouble getting there on the website, please email me Okay, or just keep checking back and join when you can. But if you would like
or email support@treesisters.org and just say you're trying to join and you can't. Just email support@treesisters.org or info@treesisters.org. This is why we are changing our website, because this current website is now collapsing faster than we can actually keep repairing it. It constantly is throwing up errors, but we want to get you onto the mailing list. So, you know, if you can't do it through the actual website, then reach out to support and we'll put you on manually. It's what we're having to do quite a lot of at the moment. And I apologize for that. It's typical.
And another thing that I put in the chat here is the link to your free gift, which let me just read about summary of that here. But in order to do the free gift, it allows you to join the nest as well. So then you'll be a part of the community. But this was for, well, Claire, do you, hold on. It was it's Rewilding Your Feminine Nature, a 3-day mini course to ignite your instinctual feminine heart. So that link that I put into the chat will take you to that through the nest. You just need to register with the nest.
And do you know that that's working? Because it wasn't. You were saying that it wasn't working. Is it now working?
Well, I just got an email from Giselle saying that it is, but I didn't test it myself.
Well, everybody, you know, if you try and engage with us and it doesn't work, let us know, because we will manually get you into the system. And then come April, when the new website launches, we are going to be a team released from bondage at this point. Going to be a miracle for us. It's working for Monique. Monique, you're so lovely.
Oh, good, Monique. That's good to hear. Yeah. Okay. And as we said, as Claire said, if you have any trouble joining or accessing the free gift, just email support@treesisters.org and they will get you fixed up. Okay.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Claire, for being here with us, for spending all of this time with us today, and for sharing all that you have. It's been really, really powerful. I don't think there was a dry eye in the whole place for a while there. So thank you for as I said,
to be a waterfall.
Yeah, for modeling this true self-expression and really encouraging, empowering all of us to stand up on our desks in the office or whatever we need to do.
And roar. Stand up and roar and let it have you, and then discover how unbelievably incredible you actually are when you let yourself be who you really are. That's my wish for everyone.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's attending here. I hope you found this as powerful and moving as I have, and definitely go claim that free gift. Monique says the link is working, so go and click on there now. And also for those who are watching this as a recording, you will find the link to that free gift. Just if you scroll down a little bit below the video here, you will find it on the page. All right.
Thank you so much for spending time with us, everybody.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Claire. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope we talk again soon.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.